Well, it's still spinning. All right, there we go. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another hallway track. I'm very excited to see everybody tonight. And tonight we have Alan from the tooling team. And we had a question right before we started the recording. What is the tooling team? Which is a great question. I think it's a great place to start. Alan, welcome. Thank you very much for coming back to hang out with us. It's great to see you again.
It's great to be back.
What tooling team, my friend?
Yeah, so basically...
We're always happy to have you.
So basically, the Angular tooling team is a subset, small team inside the Angular team, which is mainly responsible for tools related to Angular, such as the Angular CLI. We are also responsible sort of other packages like Angular Universal and server-side rendering. Yeah, that's who we are. Currently on the team, there are, I believe, 4 people. Me, there's Charles, there's Keen, which is the team lead, and there's also Doug. So you just sometimes around on GitHub. Feel free to say hello.
That's awesome. Well, feel free to bring them anytime if you want to bring them. We would love to meet them. It's really fun to see the people behind the code. You know? We're all using the CLI. We love the CLI. I think that goes without saying. And so it's so fun to put a face with the name, you know.
Yeah. So any more questions before I show you some stuff?
I think you should show us some stuff. Let's start with that. Show us what you've been doing and whatever you have to show us, and then I'm sure we'll have lots of questions for you.
Okay, in that case,
once people figure out like what kind of stuff you're working on, then we'll be like, oh, hey, yeah.
In that case, I'll just share my screen for a sec. Let me know when you see it.
This is so exciting. I love hallway track. All right, we see it.
Okay, so let me just try to increase the size a bit. Okay. So over here, I have just a basic Angular application with just one laser out and some I18 stuff. And I'm going to add the Angular Universal, or an experimental way of adding Angular Universal. Typically, when you add the Angular Universal, you need to make sure that your application can run fully on the server, and therefore you do not depend on Windows APIs. And also, when you build your application, it will output one application which runs on your browser and another application which runs on the server. So therefore, you have 2 duplicate builds with targeting different environments. With this approach, what we have is a single build, that one for the browser, and we reuse the browser build to render your application on the server using JS DOM or a JavaScript DOM. So to add it, it is quite simple. We will use the schematic. So ng-add, ng-universal /common. We're going to add it. So I have some prompts here if I want to generate pre-rendering. For the sake of the demo, I will not show this. I will just show SSR. So I will choose SSR. You can use both pre-rendering and server-side rendering at the same time. And with this approach, you'll basically have what is called hybrid rendering. So when you have a page which has already been generated at build time, it will not be rendered on the fly, but it will be served as a static content. And when you don't have that page, it will hit the server-side application, and it will generate it during the request. So yeah, so we're gonna add it. We'll wait a bit for the installation. Okay, so we have some code changes here. So So all the changes are pretty much, oops, there's a double one. Let me see if I can remove. So yeah, so we can see that has been added a new import from Angular Universal Common Clover, which is sort of the experimental name for this project. It has similar features for Angular Universal, such as transfer HTTP cache module, so that you do not duplicate requests on the server and on the client. And yeah, that's it. So let's see it in action. So let's run a build. Yeah, so build. At first, it will generate this browser bundle. You have to wait a bit. Oops. Looks like it.
You can't live code without errors.
Yeah.
It's against the laws of the universe.
Maybe running in npm install again, like.
Why is? Yeah, something went through. I'll try.
It's not detecting the sub package, the Clover sub package.
Yeah. Why is it?
Thanks, Mateo.
Oh yeah, it was not added. So let's just see if I just found that one. There's oops. Okay.
Hey.
Now we have the server build, which previously I said there is no server build, but what I meant with that was that there is no, the application is not being built on the server. For the server build, we're just basically building the, let me remove the diff. We're just building actually the node server, which is here. So it's just a one file with like express configuration, basically. In fact, it's super small, 6.19 KB. So yeah, let's serve the server-side render page. Oops. So serve SSR. Okay. Browser. Okay, and we can go to EFR. So in here we have a page in the French version. Now if we go to GB, or actually in US, we have the English version. Why this is great? Because previously, I'm not sure how many of you have experience with Universal and I18N, but previously it was very hard and it required a lot of boilerplating to support internalization, or at least build-time internalization. And with this one, basically, it comes out of the box. So it's just
That's amazing. I was doing consulting for years, and there were a lot of architects out there that were trying to handle internationalization like one at a time, and basically building this functionality out there by themselves. So you just like did all that on the fly?
Yeah.
That was amazing. And so now, because the tricky part is that when we have dynamic functionality and we have internationalization like mixed in there, that we have all these translations going on, but we don't know exactly what country they're in when they're looking at it when we're writing the code. So it's really difficult, and you end up with, you know, all this complexity. And so you just did all that work for us.
Well, you still need, if you want, for example, to serve an application, let's say the French application, if you are coming from a French IP, you still need to do that logic. But what has been reduced is actually bootstrapping and how to handle actually loading multiple applications, i.e. An English application and a French application with Universal.
Right.
Because previously you had to run multiple applications and multiple instances of Express, and then either using reverse proxy or actually having with Express routing and directing the routes to different Express engines yourself.
Yeah, so that's what I saw a lot of teams doing.
Out of the box.
I didn't even know that you guys were working on this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And this is still experimental. So has this been officially released yet?
Yeah. So
or is this brand new?
It is still experimental, and it's still very much in its infancy. However, that being said, this will probably not replace the other approach, because both of them have constant pros, right? So the first one, which uses the platform server, has the pro that it is faster, but it has the cons that it requires more setup, it requires additional builds for the server, and for onboarding, it requires a lot of effort, because if you depend on third-party libraries and they depend on Windows or other DOM APIs, you might have a big headache. Where with this approach, this is slightly slower compared to the traditional version. However, it's way easier to onboard and play with Universal and experiment. And if your application doesn't have like a really high performance benchmarking requirement, this is like a very good approach to go with. That being said, the performance bottlenecks that this approach brings or has the drawback of can be mitigated by having either CDN in front of your application or some other caching mechanism such as Redis or whatnot.
That's beautiful. Do you want to open it up for questions, comments?
Sure.
Or do you want to show us anything else before then?
So I can just give you a summary of basically what's supported with this approach. So there's server-side rendering, there's pre-rendering, there is critical CSS inlining when doing both pre-rendering and server-side rendering. There's the state transfer, which I mentioned previously earlier, so that HTTP calls are not duplicated on the browser when hydrating. There's also hybrid rendering. I think that's it.
Wow.
So, questions?
Anybody got questions?
Thanks, Alan. I really like this approach. It makes it a lot simpler to create server-side rendered applications. I see some issues with it. I probably don't have to explain them to you. You are well aware of those.
Well, if you see some issues, maybe you can, I don't know, then maybe you can mention them. It's not a problem.
Yeah, they are, well, speed is one of them.
Yeah.
Also, I would see some issues with sessions where there is a possibility like users data will bleed into each other if not handled carefully in the application.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of my primary concerns, which only is an issue if you are having sessions and stuff like that.
I think it would be really helpful to put together a little tutorial to let people know how to implement it properly. Because that's the thing with a lot of functionality is you have to know how to use it and how to implement it properly. And if you try to kind of predict everything they could possibly do wrong and put that, because that's like Sandra taught me, like rather, you know, if you just keep it strict to begin with rather than trying to handle every single thing. So maybe that's something that we can help with the community with, like teaching them how to do it properly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this goes with everything. Like when you start opening the APIs, like that is when like you start encountering edge cases and misusage of those APIs.
And I think something that I've seen, and I just want to mention this, and Alan, you can back me up on this if you agree. Something that I've seen is if you are in the Angular community and you want to do a talk about something like this, you know, and say, hey, that thing that Alan showed us in the hallway track, it was really cool, and I want to turn it into like a little demo and do a tech talk and share it, but I can't get it working, right? And if you have a situation like that and you reach out to Alan and say, hey, can you help me get this demo working so that I can go and make sure that I'm teaching them properly and, you know, and add some best practices from Sonder and stuff like that. If you ever have an interest in doing something like that, I just want you to know that if you reach out and ask questions, like these guys are really, really super helpful. And not only that, it also helps everybody else as well for you to kind of pass along the best practices and help get that out in the community. It's just my 2 cents.
No, that definitely. I mean, if you're doing a presentation about this or anything, really, even in the CLI, just reach out if you're uncertain about something or have questions. We'll definitely help you out.
It's very difficult to get up on stage and talk about tech, or even like not even on stage, but even just like at meetups or tech talks. It's really hard to present in front of your own peers because, like, what if I say something wrong and everybody knows that I'm a fraud? Like that's the definition of imposter syndrome. That's the thing. That's imposter syndrome. And so to get around that, you go and find somebody really smart who knows exactly, like way more than you, and go to them and show them what you're working on. And then they give you feedback. And then you have all this confidence because you know that this code is correct and it's brand new cool, right? And then you get to be one of those cool people talking about brand new stuff that just came out. And yeah, so keep that in mind if you have an interest in stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm just seeing the comment from Sunday.
Yeah, if Sandra has imposter syndrome, imagine the rest of us. Crazy. Demaya, do you have a question? Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Good to see you again.
Thanks. I actually had 2 questions. One being the hydration process, which Alan said. If I'm not wrong, this was already there in NG Universal. So is it something, is it right now, has it been improved or was the status?
So by the hydration, you mean the HTTP transfer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Okay. And second thing is, since you're from the Angular tooling team, I don't think we have had too many sessions about how to write custom tooling for a project. So I think if we can have more sessions on that.
I'm definitely available to talk about that. It's not a problem, although I have to really say and state that as when you go with your custom tooling, you are going on an unsupported path. So you're basically on your own.
Also, there's under courses in Angular Nation, there's a course called Intro to CLI Schematics, I believe, Intro to Schematics, and it's free. and it's by Natalia Vendito, who is a GDE, and she's amazing. And so you can kind of learn how to make your own schematics, and it's actually really cool. And if you haven't done it before, it might be like intimidating, but it's really not too hard. So you can go take that course, and if you have questions, you can reach out to Natalia too, and she can help. Or you can reach out to the tooling team.
Yeah, actually, because I've seen in my office project, people have written shell scripts to do the same thing, and I was thinking we could extend the CLI and do it.
Absolutely, that's a schematic. Yeah, you can.
Can you mention, like, for it, like when you say shell scripts, like, can you give an example? Like, are they like modifying files? Are they post build steps? What are they doing?
Basically, they are creating new components, but with some added features.
Okay, so in that case, that's actually pretty easy to do, and the way to go with that is actually extending the default schematics.
Which is in Natalia's course.
Yeah.
I'll definitely take a look at that. Thanks.
We'll see you later, Sander. Don't be late for dinner.
I have a couple of minutes left.
I've had Monique's cooking. I would not miss dinner either. Yeah, so Demalia, I've noticed, and I could be wrong, but just in my experience and from what I've seen from the people talking that I've talked to, schematics, there's like a mental wall with schematics where like we don't know how to do that. It's kind of like, you know, going into hardware or like front end people going into the back end, like we don't know how to do that, right? But if you jump over the wall, you'll find, see you later, Adam. You'll find that it's actually pretty, I mean, you're just basically having like a to-do list, right? And so you're going to give the schematic a step-by-step instructions, and you go into Natalia's course and she'll show you like the syntax and how to do it. But that's basically it. The schematic is like step-by-step instructions. And we already have the ng generate, right? It's the same thing that you're doing, but you can just add your own little tweaks.
Yeah, when you get used to them, it's pretty easy to create your own and extend your own. And
There are,
yeah.
There are a couple of things, and some people are working on a library to support schematics. I think there are like 3 or 4 initiatives on this, and I know the tooling team also wants to export some of the tooling to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's short term though. But probably Alan knows more about that than I do.
No, we definitely know that there are some private APIs that need to sort of, or utilities that need to be made available easier. And we will be working on them. So
maybe we should try to have another initiative over on Angular Nation to get some help from the community. We could crowdsource it.
Yeah, I think for starters, we actually need to figure out what it is that the community wants, as in from the API, and see how best to implement that in a good fashion.
Yeah, we have done a couple of things like this with committees on Angular Nation, and I think it would be interesting to put together a committee. Let's just do a little quick poll here. Mateo, put your hand down just for a second, but I want you to put it up because I want to get to you in a minute. I want everybody to raise your hand if this is something that you would really like to be involved in personally, and you would be excited about getting involved in something like this and just having a voice and saying like what's going on. Can you raise your hand if you'd like to participate in something in a community initiative like that? Oh yeah, anybody else? Alex?
I would love to do that, but
Sander, as usual, you will be on the committee in an advisory position, and we will not assign you any tasks. You can just keep us on the straight and narrow. Okay, so everybody put your hand down. Mateo, put your hand back up so that we'll remember that we won't forget you. Basically, what I'm seeing from this is that we definitely do have people in the community that would like to participate in something like this. So, Alan, that's just a good thing for you to keep in the back of your mind, because what we've found with community initiatives like this, it really takes us a while because, like you said, we have to figure out exactly what we're trying to accomplish, and then we can go and the community can help us, and the community also will help us figure out what they want. And it's all it's really nice to start that conversation, but it does take a while with schedules. Everybody's busy. So it's definitely not something that will happen quickly. But I'm happy to set up a channel and we can kind of put people in that channel and have a discussion, just so we'll have a place to talk about that kind of stuff going forward. Because I think it would be great, because I think schematics is really interesting and cool. And definitely the people who are using schematics, because the thing that I really think that I see with the need in the community is to be dry. Let's not all make the same schematics that do basically the same thing. And when you have so many community schematics popping up, that it would make sense that there's a lot of overlap and similarity. And so the whole point, I think, to me at least, in collaborating is to stop everybody from doing all this work one at a time, right? Would you agree?
Agree.
Awesome. Okay, I have it on my to-do list. Okay, Matteo, do you want to jump in? Anybody else, raise your hand and we'll, yeah, go ahead, Matteo. You're muted though.
Sorry. Yeah, Alan, the last time we talked about internationalization, we missed the documentation of the already existing features and the already released features that we don't know, like it's working better in latest versions, but there are no documentation of dates. This feature is also coming to some plan to document it, and also, like Bonnie said, like best practices, considering stuff that we miss when we implement it.
Yeah, so docs around Angular Universal are definitely planned, and it's something in the pipeline. It's just finding actually time and people to do it. I mean, it's basically based on priorities, depending on priorities. So,
and this is really why I love to encourage people in the community to start working on stuff like this and then go to them for feedback rather than waiting, because it's like the Angular team can either write the docs or write the actual Angular code, and they're usually more focused on the code. And so, and really, Matteo, because I've talked to you before and I've seen you around and I think, if I may say so, that you would be a great candidate to do the talk that we were talking about. How do you feel?
She just put you under the bus.
Because I know him, I could do that. Because I know that Matteo would love it.
He feels like he should have kept his mouth shut.
No, well, okay, you could say no, Matteo. I would not put you on the spot, but I think you would like that, wouldn't you?
Sadly, it's the same problem. Like time time is finite. So I'm pretty busy right now, and yeah, I don't have the time to dig in and expose it.
Well, and remember, this is and I totally understand, and I don't Simon. Yeah, okay. I understand. I totally do. And there's no pressure and there's no deadline, but I want to just keep something in mind, because the reason why it's so nice to be able to have support from the experts is so that you don't have to spend all of the time figuring out how to do it. Because Alex Rickaboss showed something really cool not that long ago in a hallway track, and I really wanted to include it in the course that I was working on, and I couldn't get it working because he just did it really fast, and I was like, what the heck, right? I don't know how to do that. So I went to Alex and he helped me. So that's what I'm saying. So, and you don't have to do it, Matteo. I understand you have billable hours and they come before us, and I totally get that. But if that was something that you were interested in, just remember that you're not alone. You don't have to do it by yourself. That's the beauty of it. And also that if you or if anyone else wanted to do something like this, it's just good. You know, it's good experience. It's good practice, and it helps Alan too. So, you know, to get more best practices out in the community. And that's how we become experts, right? The best way to learn is to teach. So not you specifically, Matteo. I am picking on you, but you know, this could be for anybody.
Yeah, sadly, I don't have like an internationalization challenge to dig in and to make it my first topic in my priorities. So yeah, that's the problem.
Absolutely. Well, if anybody does feel passionate about this and wants to do a talk about this, just keep in mind, we have very small channels that you can practice in if you don't have experience speaking. It's very good for your confidence. It's good for professional networking. And we always will have experts that can go over your code if you have questions, because we don't want you teaching people wrong either. And so we really want to help you teach people the best practices. So if you just say, I'm not really sure if this is exactly how it should be taught, then I mean, any GDE will be happy to help you with that. The Angular team will be happy to help you with that because we want everybody teaching consistently. So we're all in this together is the point.
Yep.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions? Comments? Alan, you're also allowed to ask us questions if you want.
Oh, I'm not a question person.
That's okay. That's okay. Anybody have questions about the CLI?
Yeah, sure.
Anybody have questions about Angular in general, or any recommendations, suggestions? Go ahead, Mateo.
Yeah, about the CLI, I've seen some issues in the Angular 12 upgrade because Webpack 5 seems to have the cache issues, it seems, because it got slower, right? So Angular, the latest minor release, seems to have some solutions for it. And also the jump into the production default configuration also has caused some troubles, right? So is that like addressed already? I can upgrade now.
So Webpack 5 does indeed use slightly more memory, but that is due to the factor that there is now caching enabled, which helps to speed up builds. In 12.1, we have also added a new feature to actually store this cache on disk, so that it will make subsequential builds warm instead of cold, so it will be even faster, the first build. This is still very much experimental and can be obtained using an environment variable. Eventually, we will want to turn on this by default if the feedback is good, obviously. With regards, what was the other question?
Well, the issues seems to be addressed then with this environment variable and the fixes to the configuration with Webpack.
The production build. So the default to production is actually only affects new applications. For existing application, there is an opt-in migration, but this is opt-in because it can break workflows and like CI configurations and things like that. So for new applications, when you run ng build, it will default to production. And the main reason for that is because certain providers will just run yarn build, which previously defaulted to development configuration, and a lot of users unknowingly ended up deploying development code in production. So this is also aligns with other frameworks, since mostly or all other frameworks default to production by default when you run a build.
Yeah, like Netlify, right? It's used to be just build command and
there's Netlify for sure. There's Heroku as well, and there are a bunch of others.
Okay, thank you very much for your fixes on that, because yeah, I was concerned. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you for your awesome questions, as always.
Yep.
Oya? Hello, my friend.
Hello. Good
How are
afternoon.
you?
Yeah. So my question is regarding an issue I faced recently on a new project I joined. So there's this monorepo, but I think it's actually in NX. But yes, there's an issue with trying to serve the application where if you're using a machine less than I think 24 gig that has 24 gigs of RAM, when you try to serve the application, you get a JavaScript out of memory issue.
So
And I don't know. So I think in my own case, I was able to now get it to run on my 16 gig machine by upgrading the Node version, but I don't think it works for other people. So my question is, how do you even go about trying to solve those kind of issues?
Okay, so in Node, it doesn't really matter how many memory your computer or your machine has, because it will always default to 2 gigabyte unless you specify that you want to increase the memory. And you can do that via the max old size flag. Also, typically it is recommended to only use the latest DLTS versions of Node because those are what are actually supported. Yeah, though like 24 gigabytes of memory seems way too much for an application.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something else going on, or maybe just you have 24 gigs of memory available on your computer, but you are actually not increasing the memory allowed to be used by the build.
So I think in trying to fix the issue there, we also came about that max node size limit. So, and I think they had already ran the command to try to increase it to as much as I think 14 gig. But then in some projects, you're still having that issue. But I should add, as like I mentioned before, it's a mono repo, so we are not really sure.
So this is NX Oya.
Yes. So,
I ran into this problem. Sorry, Alan, go ahead.
So one important thing to take into consideration is that when you use the max old size flag, the garbage collector will run less often. So therefore, if you have set that particular option to 10 gigabytes, you must make sure that your machine has always 10 gigabytes available, dedicated to be used for the build.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if you say that ng build should take 10 gigabytes, right? But you only have 8 gigabytes available, the garbage collector will not free up the garbage in time, and you will end up with an out of memory exception because you don't have any more memory on your machine.
Oya, I ran into this problem at least once or twice that I remember when I was working with NX a lot, and I went to Victor, who wrote NX, and I asked him for help in this. And I was like, we need to fix the app. And he said, some apps are actually that big, and so it could be valid. And he sent me a little, like a one line that I put in the package.json that fixed that error. And I can send it to you. It might help. It was like one line. It was really easy. I'll find it. Don't let me forget.
Okay, I'll remind you. So
no promises.
Yeah, another part that is actually fascinating to me is, so if we have that kind of an issue now, how do you go about trying to know what are the main things that are causing the memory issue?
Okay, so first, what I would recommend, first start by removing the max old size flag. See if you actually need that flag, because I've debugged a lot of like projects, and sometimes people put it there and they leave it there, and might actually not be needed. Secondly, if you do need that, don't increment the max old size by 10 gigabyte. Try to increment by 2 gigabyte at a time, and see where your application builds successfully. If you keep getting the out of memory exceptions, you would need to take heap snapshots, because there might be a memory leak somewhere.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And I really did, for the record, I tried to argue with Victor because I really thought that this is wrong and that we don't want this. But he said, especially in enterprise situations, as these apps it's not necessarily a bad thing. As your apps get bigger and you add more functionality, you might need to adjust that.
Yeah, indeed, because Node only adds 2 gigabytes of memory, and it will not increase that by default. So you need to specify it manually. And as the application grows, it's obviously that you need more memory to build your application. So you might need to actually increase the memory limit yourself.
I'm going to find that code for you guys and paste it in the chat. Any more questions for Alan? Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah.
Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Bonnie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to know whether um, micro front-end solves this problem. You having a very big application, does it mean that having a micro front-end kind of architecture will solve the problem?
Of memory usage or
Come again?
for memory usage, you mean?
No, for the application growing to be bigger.
So micro frontends are great, but they have also a lot of drawbacks. So unless, in my personal opinion, that is, unless you actually need a micro frontend, do not go with it. Like if you are a small team of 5 person, in my humble opinion, there is no reason why you should even be looking at micro frontends, because down the line, you will actually have more problems than actually trying to solve right now. So I see, and again, this is in my opinion, like if you are trying to solve scalability problem or like cross team working on the same application, then probably micro frontends is the way to go. But for modularization and just for the sake of modularization, I don't see that micro frontend is truly the answer.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, thank you.
Can you see that I just posted in the chat, Alan? Is that the
Yeah,
same thing
yeah.
that you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Oya, you can grab that and put it in your package.json and let me know if you have questions about implementing it. Because then you're going to put it, basically, then you're going to be like start, when you do ng serve, you're going to do, or npm start, you'll put it in there. I'll help you if you want.
Okay. Thanks, Bonnie.
You're welcome. Okay, we have a little bit of time left, and I just want to mention something that you guys might not have thought of, because this is part of the beauty of the hallway track, is we don't have to just sit and ask Alan questions about CLI. We can ask him questions, or we can say hello, or we can, because sometimes we talk about like career advice, or like how do you get a job on the Angular team, or any kind of stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be. We can ask all kinds of, like, what did you have for lunch? You guys probably don't care what you had for lunch today, but still, you know what I mean. Go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, so I thought I'd share something along those lines.
Go ahead.
So my use case, I'm refactoring a huge project into a monorepo, and the test cases that were out there for the project were just wretched. And what I mean by that is they were importing every single module, and I was in circular dependency hell. It was wretched. So the strategy I took was to delete all of the test cases. I saved them, but I deleted all the test cases from the project and resolved all my circular dependencies. And then since, I don't know, 90% of the test cases that were out there were simply doing that first standard test case of, it should create the component, or it should create the service. What I wanted was a test generator. So I looked out there on NPM. NPM had a Jasmine test generator that was almost what I wanted, except I'm using Jest, but I figured I'd do global search and replace. And then it also had an Angular unit test generator, which had the added advantage of creating skeletons or stubs for a test for each method, which I also liked, because I'm of the opinion that when I create something, I want to create it in such a way that junior developers can see how I did it and copy and paste it if they need to. So neither one of them filled my needs. So this weekend, I published my very first public NPM package. And what I did is I took the best of both worlds, and what it does is it generates a just test case for whatever you tell it to that uses the test bed and creates mocks for every single thing that needs to be injected in the constructor, and just auto generates these test cases. And I was able to auto generate 200 test cases. Well, in the case of my actual day job, 400 test cases like that. And I'm working through them now because there still are some dependency issues I have in my project. But if you want to try it out, just saying, if you have a use case where a test case generator makes sense, it's my first contribution to the community. My next step, when I have free time, is to redo the whole thing with schematics. But right now, it's just a command line tool.
Awesome. You should turn that into a tech talk. And also be sure to check out Cypress as well. Have you looked at Cypress?
Yes, and that may be in my. Right now, I'm trying to deal with the refactoring the unit test cases, but Cypress is next on my list.
Awesome.
Cypress
is really cool. I would recommend checking it out. Cypress is pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah,
and we have a Cypress channel too. We did a Meet the Cypress team recently, and Adam did like a really super quick hello world, how do you use Cypress, and it was very small demo just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like and what it does. I would highly recommend it. It's very cool.
Well, and the team is struggling right now with what level of Cypress testing to do. They've generated, I don't know, maybe 20 Cypress tests. And so I'm going to propose Shai Resnick's strategy of smoke tests.
Oh, yeah. And I think Shai has I think he just started. Tim, did Shai's workshop I think his workshop just opened?
Yeah, I'm in it.
Oh, you're in it. So okay. Well, then you don't even need my help. You have Shai Resnick. Shai is amazing. And we're also going to do, we're doing another event, I think in a couple of weeks with all the testing experts. So you probably will want to check that out too. Fun, fun, fun. Then we have more questions for Alan. What'd you have for lunch, Alan? Now I want to know, since we brought it up.
I actually had a bagel.
Hey, that's awesome. Anything, we're just about out of time. Anything coming up that you're working on that you're excited about? Anything that you're kind of struggling with or frustrated with, or what's going on in what you got ahead of you? What are you working on for the rest of the week?
Currently doing some performance improvements in ng Packager, which is basically the tool used to build and bundle your libraries.
That's awesome. We have time for a couple more questions. We see a couple more hands going up. Yeah? Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just a quick question. So I'm aware that we also have, Angular has a kind of monorepo Angular workspace thing going on. But my question is why we don't have enough docs about it, because I think it's really cool, and it's for a monorepo where you don't really need too much extra functionality. It's probably the best to do.
There should be docs for that in Angular.
The CLI workspace?
Yes.
There are docs, and you can find it under the CLI generate command. But I think it's underappreciated.
Yeah. But it's not. So I think I've gone through what you're talking about, but it's not like I don't know how to put it. Probably it just doesn't emphasize on how great it can actually be. I don't know. It's just me just thinking about it that way. But anyway.
I think this is the part. Okay. Oh yeah. Remember when we talked? Was it you that I was talking to about this recently?
Yes, I think so.
The page that Alan just linked in the chat is the page that I was looking for that I couldn't find. Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Look, I found something that mentioned it, but this was actually how to structure it in the Angular guide. And I was looking for something else, and I was like, well, it's here. Okay, so yeah. So when Oya said it's not very well explained in the docs, that was my fault. Sorry, Oya. It was very well explained in the page that Alan just linked. You just have to know who to ask.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
But I do stand by my recommendation. It's really nice. If you haven't used the CLI workspace, and if you know what a monorepo is, right? You know NX. We have probably all heard of NX. the workspace is like basically like a minified version. It's like a simplified version. It's the same thing. It's like a monorepo. So you can have a projects file and then multiple projects in the same file that share node modules. It's really nice. And I highly recommend it. And I don't think that, this is what I'm saying, I don't think it gets enough attention, right? Because it's really just very easy to use. I love using it for demos. And I also used it in my reactive forms demo that I shared. And I just really like it. So I think if you haven't used that, or if you haven't looked at that, the link that Alan just, and actually, Oya, since, if you don't mind, since it was your question, can you put that in the, can you just make a post, grab that link that Alan just, and like make a quick post about it in Angular Nation so that other people can find it, because I think it's really nice. Thank you very much. All right, yeah, we want to round this out. We'll have some final thoughts for Alan at the end if you want. Alan, you can close us out with whatever you want to leave us with. Go ahead, Matteo.
Yeah, I have a new item for your to-do, Alan. I guess we found a bug in ng-packager, but we didn't report it like correctly, because while trying to use watch in the programmatical API, like calling it from our CI scripts, it didn't work. Like the watch was broken. It didn't generated the expected output. So if you can add it to your to-do check, I will appreciate it.
I don't think we can submit GitHub issues through the hallway track, my friend. I don't think that's, we're crossing a line here. We have to make them feel welcome, and we don't. If we start assigning bugs during the hallway track, how are we ever going to have another hallway track? No, we can't do that. You got to go to GitHub and open. Alan is here hanging out with us in the hallway, man. You can't, yeah. Also, I don't know how many times I found bugs in the Angular code that actually turned out to be bugs in my own code. So be careful, because there were a lot of times that I was pretty sure I found a bug. I actually ended up having the bug myself. But yeah, I think the rule stands. You can't open a bug in hallway track.
It's friendlier when you report it like face to face. GitHub sometimes gets messy with the priorities and stuff. But if he will work it this weekend, maybe.
No, we don't want Alan working on the weekend. What are you doing, Matteo? Alan's got, it's beautiful. It's summertime. Alan doesn't want to work this weekend. This is why we don't want bugs in the hallway track, man. No, we got to be friends with. They're coming here on like, this is like his free time, you know. Yeah.
Just to add on that, the watch API should be working because it's being used by the CLI, and there are some ITOEs and unit tests. So if you are experiencing a problem, you definitely need to open up an issue with their production.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Nice try, though, Matteo.
Yeah, nice try.
Go ahead and fix that for us this weekend, Alan, could you? It couldn't hurt to ask. All right, Alan, I know we're almost out of time. We have to let you get back to the important work that you're doing. And I just really want to thank you again on behalf of all of us. We really appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out with us and answer all our questions. And it's really cool to see what you're working on. So I want to mention again, if anybody wants to do a talk about the internationalization stuff that Alan mentioned, I would personally absolutely love to see it, because I like that kind of stuff. And I like, you know, going on the bleeding edge and doing brand new stuff. And if nobody takes us up on this, Alan, I will find time, maybe not this month, but I'll do a talk because I think it's really cool. Any final thoughts for us, Alan?
No, thanks for having me once again. Of course, it's always a pleasure to be here. And if you have any questions or feedback, just feel free to reach me on Twitter. I'm always here.
And you joined Angular Nation too, right?
I don't recall. I
should send you an invitation. I'll send you an invitation just in case you want to join us. We would love to have you.
Sure.
And we really loved having you tonight. Thank you again so much for hanging out with us. Thank you everybody for all the awesome questions. We appreciate you. That's it for tonight. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.